You're watching World Championship Wreckage. Professional wrestling history the way the fans remember. Brought to you by Rivet City Radio and the World Championship Wreckage YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Today's episode.
Whoa, 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 whoa. It's season 2, baby. We're changing it up.
Penis. You're welcome, Dad Hat. You can edit that out too, buddy. We love you.
I hope he keeps it in.
Greetings and salutations, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of World Championship Wreckage. I'm XLJ the OG, joined this week with our very special guest because we had to get this man here with us with the topic we're talking about. One, Michael J. Duplessis. How are you, good sir?
I'm doing phenomenal. How y'all doing?
We're doing awesome. Of course, huge shout out to my brothers, my partners. Of course, Dad Hat and Will Gray couldn't join us this week, but I'm sure they'll be back with us on the next episode here, Wreckage. But it's all good because the topic at hand tonight, you're talking to, I feel like I have a good grasp on this man's legacy, but this guy over here, he's going to know the ins and outs and everything about this man because the man we're talking about tonight is Art Barr. And if you're not familiar with the legend of Art Barr, boy, oh boy, we are going to school you tonight on this episode here, World Championship Wreckage. To kind of kick it off here first, Mike, I want to ask you, what was your first real memory of the late, great Art Barr?
I got shown Art Barr stuff through being an Eddie Guerrero fan.
Nice.
So being obsessed with Eddie as Eddie as I am, as anyone who watches our channel knows, their tag team in Mexico from 1990 to 94, just phenomenal matches.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that was my first exposure to Art Barr, and then him being from Oregon, from the Northwest, and being his family is pro wrestling royalty.
Yes.
Here in the Northwest.
Yeah, which I think a lot of people don't know who are familiar with Art Barr.
Yes.
But yeah, that's a perfect segue into kind of kicking us off here as we're talking about Art Barr. So his father, Sandy, was a wrestler as well as a referee and a promoter.
Yes. He got his start in the early 50s, actually wrestling in Idaho. Had his first match in 57, working for a promoter in Idaho, a guy named Cliff Theed, who ran a promotion out there.
Okay.
And then shortly after that, in 1960, he moved to Oregon, and that's when he started first being a referee, and then wrestling, and then helping Don run Portland Wrestling in the 60s, and pretty much helped promote till like the late 80s for him.
There you have it, folks. Now, he also had a brother who was a wrestler too, Jesse, who actually helped train Art Barr along with another famous wrestler,
Roddy Piper.
And Roddy Piper had a huge part in his career too, as well.
Yeah. His brother, Farron Barr Jr., because that is actually Sandy's real name is Farron.
Okay.
His brother would mostly be known for anyone who watched the WWF in 1986 as Jimmy Jack Funk.
Jimmy Jack Funk. There's a name from the past, folks. And if you don't know Jimmy Jack Funk, you need to go back, watch On the Cock, the Peacock, that is. You could see some crazy stuff. You know what I remember most about Jimmy Jack Funk was the segments on Tuesday Night Titans.
Yes.
And it was just chaotic. Like he had the stupid
Mask.
fucking like Sorrow mask on with like this like stupid fucking like little tiny like cowboy hat, like just
Yeah.
absurd, just absolutely absurd.
Yeah, he's supposed to be the obscure third brother to Terry and
Dory or
Dory.
Hoss. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
we remember
Hoss.
because we couldn't use Dory. It didn't sound good enough for the WWF back then.
Yeah,
So we had to Hoss.
Hoss Funk. God, Vince, I hate you guys.
Managed by Jimmy Hart. There you go. Oh dear God. But
yes.
if you really want to go down a little rabbit hole, like watch the Jimmy Jack Funk stuff. It's pretty wild. And like he was a pretty crazy guy too outside the ring as well. There's a lot of legendary stories with him. Matter of fact, I think correct me if I'm wrong here, Mike, but the Rockers' first stint, wasn't like Jimmy Jack a little responsible for getting them kind of in trouble? They partied a little too hard at the bar.
Yeah. That was actually his first promotion. Was actually he didn't wrestle in the Northwest. His dad sent him down to Florida.
Oh, okay, so he worked for the Grams.
Yeah, and he was actually an NWA Florida heavyweight champion.
Oh, okay. I'll be damned.
Yeah, he lost it. He beat Scott McGee, and he lost it to Brian Blair.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that's just a little bit on A1 Jimmy Jack Funk. Yeah.
But you can see that there's a rich history here for Art Barr and his family. But
yes,
I would say, and we're going to get deep into on this episode, but Art Barr, clearly the best one in the whole family.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about, we hear it thrown around in the world of pro wrestling all the time, a trend center, ahead of his time. Art Barr personifies the meaning of that. I mean, the guy was just so damn good, and what he accomplished in a short period of time, because folks, he only wrestled for maybe
87 to 94.
94, yeah. So you do the math there. Not even like 10 years, and he accomplished quite a bit. And I mean, there's a lot of controversy around him too, as well, like in real life, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But that being said, so kind of Art Barr starts off, he worked, of course, background as an amateur wrestler. Of course, the wrestling's in his blood. And then got into the business, like you said, Mike, in 87, and worked for Pacific Northwest Wrestling. What can you tell me about Pacific Northwest Wrestling? Because I know that's right up your alley, my friend.
Pacific Northwest Wrestling, better known as Portland Wrestling, a wrestling promotion that's been around, was started in 1925.
Oh, wow.
Was the main promotion here in the Northwest. They ran out of Portland, but they went from the edge of Oregon to Seattle, Bellingham. So they ran all of Oregon and Washington. Their main promoters that most people know of is a guy named Don Owens. He got it from his dad, Herb. Don was a promoter from 1942 to 1992. They ran out of the Portland Auditorium and had huge stars come in there. The likes of Roddy Piper, Crush got his start there. Scott Norton, Playboy Buddy Rose was a top star here in the Northwest. Got his start here. And then they would bring in huge names, and they were part of the NWA.
Mhm.
So, they would bring in guys like Flair and the Lugers and the Steiners and,
The thing is, folks, I think you got to keep in mind here with Pacific Northwest and that Portland area. When we think of the territories and we think of the different, regions and stuff, a lot of people gravitate towards like the Carolinas or go to Florida, New York, all these popular, but Portland was a hot territory, like a
Yes.
highly underestimated territory in the world of professional wrestling. And there was a lot of greatness that came out of Portland. But yeah, it's interesting to know they've been around that they have been around that long since 1925. But I mean, they were a phenomenal promotion back in the day.
Yeah.
So Art starts off working for Pacific Northwest Wrestling, and you hinted at this too. One of the first big names to really kind of take a liking to Art Barr was the late great Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Yes.
Let me ask you, Mike, what do you think kind of Piper saw in Art Barr that like gravitated towards him?
I think it was, so Piper's from here, from the Northwest. Mm-hmm. And I think it was the talent. He knew the wrestling lineage that his family had. He was good friends with his dad.
Yes. Yeah, I think he was a good family friend. I think it started off kind of like as that, because when Art Barr first starts, he's just like any other white meat babyface wrestler, nothing out of the ordinary. And I don't know how or why they developed this character for Art Barr, but I mean, to me, it's one of the more fascinating characters that I've seen in the world of pro wrestling. Because they really just was like, they pulled no punches about what it truly was like a parody of, because Art Barr then became Beetlejuice.
Yes.
And yes, folks, we are talking about the same Beetlejuice played by Michael Keaton. Which, by the way, there's doing a sequel now, like 30 plus years later, and I'm kind of intrigued by it. But
what I'll get to with Art was the pro wrestling thing was not in his what he wanted to do, but things in college did not work out, so he dropped out, and he was actually working in a steel mill outside of Portland. And his dad kind of talked him into it.
So getting into wrestling, right?
Yeah, he was like, his dad was like, I don't want you to be just a regular, like, 9-to-5, like, stuck in this town kind of guy. He saw something bigger in his son.
And he also had a family to feed, too, as well. Had a girlfriend, and they had a kid together. Yeah. So, yeah. Why not get into the family business? But, yeah. But to me, the one of the first things that sticks out about Art Barr was the Beetlejuice character, man.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you can go back and look this up on YouTube. Like they actually in the studio did the transformation of Art Barr becoming Beetlejuice, like with Roddy Piper putting the makeup and like so literally he'd come out essentially with kind of like a kind of a ripoff version of Beetlejuice's makeup, and would have baby powder like in his hair, like a ton of baby powder.
Yeah. And he would wear this cheap like biker's cap, like
yep.
Yeah, it was interesting times.
Wearing like the freaking Zubaz pants too, and like wearing like just like
black and white Zubaz pants. I want a pair of those so bad. Yeah, the jean jacket that was like tight.
And also, I know you can appreciate this because I know one of your interests outside of wrestling is kicks, like also wearing sneakers too.
Yes.
Which I mean, that was something. Yeah, he was one of the first wrestlers to really wear sneakers.
Yes,
in the ring. It's crazy. And now it's like you look at pro wrestling, shit. Everybody wears that and puts on their.
The Northwest getting disrespected once again, not getting the credit we deserve.
Where credit deserves. Shoes came from Pacific Northwest, damn it. But just a wild character, man. He just was like all over the place, like it complete 180 from what he was doing before, because it was just like you said, he was kind of a shy, quiet, white meat baby face, and then he's this guy who is just like all over the damn place, just and obviously, as they say, the kids loved him.
Yeah,
because
he was
I mean,
a fan favorite. The
fan
Portland
favorite,
Coliseum loved him.
super over. I mean, this character was working, but as hot as Barr got, then comes this huge controversy, which would kind of be like stuck around him the rest of his career. So in 1989, he was
He pled
arrested
guilty.
and pled
Yeah.
guilty to a rape charge. Now, from my research and looking into this, I believe what essentially he accepted the plea bargain so he could pretty much wouldn't have to go to jail essentially and like paid a fine or something like
Yeah.
that. I do think there's different accounts of this. So I mean, and this is so many years ago. So God only knows what only people knows happens what him and the victim. So take it for what it is. Terrible situation
Yeah.
for anything.
And it
Um,
cost him to lose a job.
yeah, he was on this big rise, and also interestingly enough too, he lost his license to wrestle in
In Oregon.
Portland in Oregon. Yeah,
Yeah.
which back this licensings for pro wrestling back in the day, that was a thing. So
It's
here,
still a huge thing on the indies.
well, that's true. Yeah, it
In
still
some
is.
states, you need that, the licensing and the paperwork.
Yep. So now it's like he's got this tremendous character, but it's just like, okay, now I can't wrestle for my own promotion, but this is in 1990, and it just so happens that the head of World Championship Wrestling was none other than Jim Herd, and he was looking for as many goofy ass gimmicks as he could get his hands on, and he saw something in Art Barr and thus brought him into WCW. But they couldn't call him Beetlejuice because of copyright, because people, on the national, like
Juicer!
yeah. So let's just go. We'll call you Juicer. So they went with still the same gimmick, essentially, still this like oddball, unique looking character. The gear's still the same.
This is my favorite story of the battle behind the scenes of WCW because Jim Herd loved him.
Oh yeah, adored him. But who hated him?
Ole Anderson could not stand because he was so small.
The most miserable man on the planet then. Ole Anderson. Ole Anderson hated something. I don't believe that, Michael. Yeah. I am shocked.
So shocking, but yes. But yeah. But Jim Herd was the last man in charge, so they hired him. It was a short run in WCW.
Had a very short run, yeah, you're right, for like maybe a year, if that.
Yeah, because he didn't disclose the situation in Portland, and they found out, and so they had to fire him.
Yeah, and then also like, it was just like, okay, we can't have you doing this. But the character was starting, even though it only made a couple appearances on TV, the character was starting to take off. Yeah. I remember the entrances like it was yesterday, where he's coming out with all the kids with him and stuff, and they're all like, it's all like Jim Ross is putting him over like super great. Oh, it's the juicer. Oh man. But yeah, so once again, like these allegations and this thing hanging over his head, like cost him another job. So it just seems like shit. What's the man to do now? Right now, he did actually go back and wrestle for a brief time in
the Northwest because he wasn't banned in Washington.
Yep. So
he could do the Seattle and Tacoma shows.
Yep. So he worked those for a while, and then would develop a friendship with one Conan. And that was detrimental to his career as well as to Conan's career too, in a sense. Because let's face facts, we've talked about the juicer and stuff like that and Beetlejuice, but where Art Barr's body of work lies is in Mexico.
Easily.
First stuff. Oh my God.
His first run in EMLL as the American Love Machine.
American Love Machine, yep.
A white hot baby face.
Oh yeah. And I mean the guy's physique and stuff. And once again, here we got Art Barr, who is changing it up from the this Beetlejuice character, this juicer character, because now he's doing another completely different character, and a character too that is wearing a mask, so you can't see his.
What we did not talk about in his Portland run was his
Oh.
innovation of a one finishing move.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. Yes, because I was thinking too. Yeah, so he did that was in Portland where he developed the frog splash.
Yes.
Because yes, folks, Art Barr is responsible for the frog splash that you all know and love. So many wrestlers over the years have used.
How many people I have argued about the beginning of the frog splash with is honestly astonishing. And they get so pissed when they find out the facts.
Yeah, I mean, like the thing is, the move was called a frog splash because the man literally looked like a frog when he did it.
He
And
literally
he also, oh yeah, the way he did his arms and stuff, and still to this day, and I think you'll agree, Michael, best frog splash in all pro wrestling.
I'll give him top 3.
Love Eddie's, love Rob Van Dam's, love D'Lo Brown's. All are great, but none of them compare to Art Barr's frog splash as far as I'm concerned.
To me, him and Eddie's is 1 and 1B.
Yeah, because it's just the way that he would take his arms and then the way his legs would spread, like, and just he literally looked like a frog.
Yeah, his athletic ability, you would think he was a gymnast.
Yeah. And I don't think that it got the name of the frog splash until Mexico, right?
No,
because the name,
Mexico.
I'm sure you remember where the name actually came from. It was from one Too Cold Scorpio. Yes, that's right. Mr. Baby Arm dangling in between his legs, Too Cold Scorpio is the one who gave up the name Frog Splash to Art Barr because he said he looked like a frog when he did it. So, Art Barr, incredible like athleticism, and I think Mike froze up. So Dead Hat, you may want to pause this for a second, buddy. I'll try to see if I can get Mike back in. Oh, there you go. You're back in.
Yeah.
Froze up on you or something.
Yeah, that was weird.
Sorry, Dead Hat. You're gonna have to edit that out or leave it in. Whatever, bro.
Whatever.
I love you. Kisses. But anyways, yes. So yes, the name for the frog splash come from one Too Cold Scorpio.
Yeah.
Which
they were this initial run in EMLL. Yeah.
Yep. But let's talk about the run in EMLL though. So here he's working in Mexico, and I mean, and the thing is, like, so now, like I say, he's now wearing a mask pretty much because I think one of the great things about Art Barr, the Beetlejuice character, was his facials. Like he had great facial expressions, and like he could easily like communicate with the crowd and pull you in.
Yeah,
like, and he did it as a great baby face. But the thing is, folks, Art Barr is known as one of the greatest heels of all time. As he would get to that, but to kind of like how it kind of all like his run in EMLL culminated was he was involved in a matchup and a rivalry with
a one legendary Blue Panther.
Yep. They ultimately ended up having a mask versus mask match, which of course, if you're familiar with the Lucha Libre lore and legend, you know, the mask is the ultimate. That's bigger than any title you could ever have in Mexico. Like the mask is the ultimate. So in this mask versus match. Now I find it interesting. Oh, go ahead.
It's a sold out Arena Mexico in Mexico City.
That's literally like standing room only. Like it was literally
17,000 people.
Yeah. And it was like it was like max capacity. They even had people on the outside watching this. Thousands and thousands of people watching, like watching outside to see this incredible matchup. Yeah. And the finish is interesting.
8,000 people were outside watching outside TV.
Yeah.
On the arena they put up.
But it was very interesting, the finish of this matchup, because it ended with Art doing a pile driver, and was disqualified because pile drivers were banned in Mexico. So
yes, they were.
Yeah. So
His thing was he had forgot that they were banned.
Whoopsie. So,
Yeah.
and now he loses his mask, and thus now we see, okay, Art Barr. So,
And then shortly after that, he jumps with Conan to start a
yep.
company.
And this starts up AAA, which we all know and love AAA. And it in its early days too, in its formation, dude, that could be another episode. I'm fascinated with like the story of
The start of
AAA.
AAA is
and this-
such a crazy story.
Oh, and it's so good too, with like all the talent that they have too.
They
It's nuts.
everyone that dipped with Conan, so good.
And Conan and Art Barr had such great chemistry too. I also believe during this time frame, Art Barr and Conan actually did work a dark match for the WWF.
Yes.
Because they did the Juicer, which this is available on YouTube as well. It was the Juicer against the was it the Latin Machine or something like that? They gave Conan some generic name, and I think this was kind of Latin Love. There you go. And this is, I think, was kind of a test one too for Conan, as they would bring him in initially as the first Max Moon.
Yeah, do the Max Moon gimmick. Conan said, "No, fuck this."
Nope. And they spent so much goddamn money on it too, bro. It's like, oh my god, the amount of money they spent on the gear and shit. Has Jay done? Well, no, he sticks to WCW mostly, but Jay needs to do a creative writing on Max Moon, which I don't think he's done yet. So that needs to happen at some point. Because here on World Championship Wreckage, remember, we're more than just talking about WCW. No, we talk about all wrestling. And of course, that's what we're doing here. We're talking about the late, great Art Barr. But let's get right into, the AAA run, the defining run of Art Barr. Because the biggest thing that happens to him here in AAA is he forms that partnership with his tag team partner, Latino Heat. Wearing the shirt for a reason, folks. One Eddie Guerrero. And thus the La Para del Toro, or the Pair of Terror, is born. And the crazy thing is, too, man, and Eddie's, if you look back on interviews, shoot interviews, and the documentaries and stuff that was done on Eddie, he attributes so much of his success and what he learned from Art Barr.
Yeah.
The best way to put it with Art Barr was Eddie Guerrero before Eddie Guerrero came to life. You know what I mean?
Eddie definitely he contributes 95% of his moveset to
Art Barr. Yeah. Just crazy. And the thing is too, they would go, of course they'd go on and win the tag titles, obviously.
Yes.
But they literally became the hottest act right off the bat in AAA, and it was
best heel tag team.
Oh my god, they had so much freaking heat. They were nuclear heat. Okay,
I don't know if you know this, but if you go back and watch the stuff they were saying in AAA to the Mexican fans, slightly racist, a lot of racial undertones. JBL contributes the stuff that Eddie would teach, because Eddie would show him stuff from that they were saying in AAA, and that would come off to JBL and Eddie and JBL's feud in 2004.
Makes perfect. Yeah. And I mean, that feud was incredible too, really. But yeah, it's crazy to think doing some tape study there and just seeing Art Barr and man, if you don't know, man, seriously, I can't stress it enough. Go back and watch this stuff on a lot of it's on YouTube. But seriously,
the way they become a tag team is great, because you have a heel Art Barr, and then you have this babyface Eddie Guerrero, and he's not getting over with the Mexican fans.
Yeah, and he comes from the Guerrero family, the world famous Guerrero family, as we all know. And I think it was just kind of okay, he's getting a free pass, which Eddie wasn't.
It was not only that, but it was, yes, you might be of Latino descent, but you're not one of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
so it's all right, I'm not.
For weeks getting in his head, you're not one of them. You are American. They see you as American. You're not going to get over with these people, because you might look like them, but you are not one of them.
And the thing is too, and I may be completely incorrect here, but at least to my knowledge, first guy I know of ever kind of truly trying this type of gimmick in Mexico was Art Barr. The
Yes. Oh, yeah.
anti-Hispanic.
As far as I
character.
know, yeah, it was very with the racial undertones and whatnot, and they would make jokes of them swimming across the river to the States, and they would it was
The best way to describe it is like if you are a fan of pro wrestling, you go back into ECW in the late 90s and the Dudley Boys and look at the heat they had.
Yeah,
This the type of heat that Art Barr and Eddie Guerrero had. It was nuclear.
Yes.
Like people, like you hear these old stories, of old wrestling, like, the lady with the bag wanting to like clobber him over their head, or people waiting out back, with like bricks and baseball bats. And that's the type of heat that Art Barr and Eddie Guerrero have, man. I mean, it was just people paid their hard-earned money in Mexico because they wanted to see them go down in defeat. But as incredible as the tag team was, they would also go on to form a huge faction there in CMLL, Los Gringos Locos.
Yep.
One of the
biggest factions at that time. It was them. It was Conan.
Of course.
It was Black Cat. It was a Japanese wrestler. Mysterioso.
Yep.
And then it won Madonna's boyfriend,
which you American fans probably know as one late
Louis Spicoli.
Louis Spicoli, that's right.
Mr. I'm part of the clique.
Yes.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. And also,
and then later, Jake Roberts.
Jake the Snake Roberts, who a lot of people forget about his run in CMLL, which that could be another episode.
You mean in AAA.
Or AAA, I'm sorry.
Yeah, his weird run where he got the faction to turn on Conan, and he was drugged out that whole time, and their matches are on YouTube.
Yeah, I was gonna say and that huge matches and Drew huge, and Jake putting up his hair too, and ended up like losing his hair too. Yeah. It was funny too.
That match is on YouTube specifically.
Yes, it is. And at the same time too, he's working Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and then it's like he shows up Smoky Mountain bald, and it's like, well, how the fuck are we gonna explain that? So, anyways, wrestling. But yeah, dude. So like in AAA, you have this crazy faction, and here's another thing you gotta keep in mind too. We're talking, 93, 94. Factions really weren't a huge thing in pro wrestling. No. I mean, yes, they existed, but not like they are nowadays.
No, and they had major heat. They would come out in American flag gear.
Oh yeah,
like they were pro USA in Mexico, and in a weird time during the Gulf War. It was a thing.
Yeah, dude, it is wild. Like I say, I can't stress it enough. You go back and watch some of this stuff because it's wild, man. But Art Barr easily doing the best work of his career at this time frame. He's got this Los Gringos Locos faction going on. Going into 94 too. Also, he would be working over New Japan as well.
Yeah.
For a little brief stint over there as I think he recreate his character because he worked, if I remember correctly, he worked back over there as a babyface again, didn't he? Or no, he did work as a heel in New Japan, didn't he?
Yeah, no, it was a heel.
Was he working? But okay, but he went back to this like the American Love Machine with the like a mask and stuff too.
Yeah, but it was a heel.
Yeah, but I think like as 94 is like really where they are just gaining traction. And AAA is on fire. They have surpassed. At this time frame, I would safely say they're the number one promotion in Mexico.
Yes, yeah. With all the young talent that they had took with them, and Mexico was getting tired of the old heads that were in it for the money. Ironically, kind of like WCW in 97 and 98.
Yeah, or if you go into like Japanese wrestling, look what happened with All Japan Pro Wrestling there in the 2000s, and then Misawa starts up pro wrestling. No, hell, I'll even give you an analogy for comic book fans out there. If you are a comic book fan, it's like what happened in Marvel in like the 90s when all the guys went and formed Image Comics, like Rob Liefeld and like Todd McFarlane and stuff like that. They just got tired of the bullshit and started their own company.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but okay.
It's okay. It's all right. I'm a nerd. There's one that you're like, wait a minute, who? What? Image Comics? What is this? But it's okay. You can tell me everything because I know nothing about battle rap, so it's all good, brother.
I legit, I was so confused there.
We cover everything on here on World Championship Wreckage, damn it. So it's more than just wrestling. But anyways, we digress. So like we say, AAA on fire.
They had a great feud with actually Eddie's tag team partner against Eddie's former tag team partner.
Elhio
Del Santo.
Yep.
Who Eddie had turned on him to join Art.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Boop, an Octagon.
Yep. And so now this rivalry's been going. You got to keep in mind too that the rivalry between those four went on for like years, essentially.
Went on for like 3 years. They had Hilo and Octagon had their own faction. Their own little crew of not really a faction. It was just a group of baby faces that were kind of tired of
getting tired of their damn Los Gringos Locos.
Yeah.
But the big thing for AAA at this time frame, what was huge for them is developing a relationship with World Championship Wrestling, as they would put on their first pay-per-view in November of 1994, AAA's When Worlds Collide. Oh my God. So
it's crazy how many times that title has now been stolen for pay-per-view names.
Yeah, it has been done a lot, but in my mind, it's always going to be When Worlds Collide, damn it. So we were talking at the beginning of the show about our very first memories of Art Barr. What came to mind for me, it's this show, because I can remember doing like a tape trading back in the day, and I had a neighbor of mine who like had Starrcade 94 and this, which it was right around that time frame when both those shows happened.
Yeah,
and that was my
back. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the first time I was ever introduced to and I remember watching it too, Mike, and I was thinking like, holy shit, this is so much fucking better than what I was originally wanting to see with the WCW show. Like Starrcade 94, that's the drizzling shits. I mean, it's one of the worst Starrcades ever. But anyways, I digress. Once again,
that and Starrcade 2000, horrible.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. Don't get me started. But nonetheless, this AAA pay-per-view, man, this was like showcasing Lucha Libre for the first time really here in North America. Well, in the United States, I should say.
Yeah, and this whole pay-per-view is based on these two groups' feuds. Every match was based on these two groups.
Because you have a double main event.
Yes.
Of course, the big one was the cage match between Paraguaya and Conan.
Yes.
But you also have you have a double hair versus double mask match with Art Barr and Eddie Guerrero going up against El Hijo del Santo and Octagon. And it was a 2 out of 3 falls match as well. And it's easily the best match of the show. And the show was a good show, but dude, this match is fuck. This match is so damn. If you want to see just the culmination, people talk this year. Cody finishing his story, right? Fucking awesome, dude. It was amazing. I was there in person. Fucking loved it. It was one of my favorite wrestling memories of all time. This right here, this match, the moments that happened in this match, I would put up there with like some of the great moments through all time throughout pro wrestling, because this is like the culmination of this incredible rivalry that these four men had. Like shit during the match, you have where I believe Octagon is taken off in an ambulance, and now you have El Hijo del Santo has to defend the honor in his mask, as well as he's going up against the man who broke his heart, betrayed him in Eddie Guerrero. So this match is so like, God, it's so good. I mean, it goes for probably at least a half hour, I'd say, if not longer.
The match time is 30 seconds.
There you go. That's why they call this man the wrestling encyclopedia, my friends.
Yeah.
But dude, the match is sick. The match is absolutely sick. It is a all-time classic. And tag team wrestling too. You want to see a great matchup? This I would put on there.
Yeah.
I would even go as far as to say if I had like 10 matches I'm going to introduce to somebody in wrestling, I would put this match probably on my list.
I have friends who are wrestling fans, but not really into Lucha Libre, and that's usually the match I introduce them to Lucha Libre.
Oh, it's a perfect match to introduce them to Lucha Libre, dude. 100%, bro. 100%.
And to get back to what you were saying about his New Japan run, he did that after this AAA run. Because this pay-per-view was actually his last match in AAA.
Well, and I think it would also be, unless he did a couple shows here and there, this would be like one of his last matches ever.
He did a stint. He did a stint in summer of '94, right after this ended, in New Japan.
But he was still working AAA though, too.
Oh yeah, it was around the same time. Yeah,
it was still the same time. But yeah, because the summer is when he was doing. Because the thing is, here's the crazy thing: this pay-per-view happens, right? And it's like eyes are on AAA now. And people, like, not only wrestling fans, but people in the business too, because now you have these companies interested. And it was like this was right before Eddie, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, all those guys go to ECW,
which he was supposed to be in that group,
and Art Barr was going to be in that group, as well as he was also going to go back to Japan and going to work the January 4th Tokyo Dome show against Jushin Thunder Liger. And he was about to work and win the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah.
So he's got all this amazing stuff. And
sadly.
And then, yes, a tragedy would befall him, because at the same time, while all this stuff's going on, he's working in Mexico. And the thing is, what we've talked, and he was homesick. But what we've talked about here on this episode of just like, it's crazy to think that a guy who had this just whatever happened, happened to him, and just have this dark cloud over him, to recreate himself once again, and like to be as over as he was. And once again, I can't stress this enough. We're talking the wrestler here. We're not talking the actual person himself, so please don't take that out of context. But the thing is, for him to kind of recreate himself, not only recreate himself too, and at this point too in his career, he's proven he can be a damn good babyface, but he can be an even better heel. Yeah. It's just like, okay, you talk about like a 5-tool player. Fucking let's go. That's what we have here, essentially.
Yeah.
But like you said, Mike, homesickness from working Mexico all the time, being away from his family, his wife and kid, turns like all wrestlers, unfortunately, especially during this time frame in the 80s and 90s, was turned to alcohol and drugs, essentially.
He had the pill overdose, which caused a heart attack, which sucks, because he was supposed to go, like I said, to Philly. Him and Eddie were supposed to be a tag team in ECW.
Yeah.
That is, if you watch Eddie's matches in ECW, and he has that American flag gear on, that's the gear here him and Art wore in Mexico. For anyone watching this, they were supposed to be a tag team in ECW. They were actually supposed to feud with the likes of, Benoit and Malenko and, the Eliminators. And that was the plan, was Paul wanted a AAA invasion.
Yeah, because Conan came in too as well.
Yeah,
and then later on we get Rey Mysterio and Psychosis, who Guerrero.
Yeah. It was supposed to be, they were supposed to do a AAA invasion situation. And sadly.
Yeah, wrestling has a lot of what ifs, but to me, one of the ones that's always going to be up there is Art Barr's what if. I just think it's amazing what he accomplished in a less than 10-year time frame.
Yeah, it's actually shocking.
He's good. He was one of the greatest heels in all of Mexico wrestling history, like trendsetter, like we said, as far as like kind of creating this Hispanic character. Like, and the thing is too, like he knew the right buttons to push too.
Yeah, and not go overboard and too far.
No, exactly. Psychology was there in ring, of course. Phenomenal in ring performer, a great athlete. Man, it's just crazy to think he was taken so soon from this world. And that leads me into this, man. What do you think would have happened? What that big what if? What if Art Barr did not pass away as early as he did? What do you think would have his career would have been like?
I think there's definitely a strong run with him and Eddie in ECW, possibly winning those tag titles. And, him being a fan favorite within that crazy fan base that is that arena or that bingo hall in South Philly. I think the South Philly fans would have loved him. I ain't going to say, a big run in WWF or WCW because we don't know, especially at that time with the charges.
Would they have come back to haunt him or
Yeah.
what would have happened there,
Yeah.
I honestly, I think
honestly, if that run in New Japan would have happened, I think you could have saw one of the biggest stars in New Japan history in the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah. So my thoughts on it, I feel like he would have went to ECW. I think he would have been like many of them that got picked up by Bischoff. And I think he would have started off as like one of the big faces of the cruiserweight division.
Yeah.
Especially if trajectory shows itself, and he would have won the IWGP championships. He's already established as one of the great lightweights in the world, right?
Yeah, true.
So I think he would have been one of the faces of that cruiserweight division. Hell, who knows? He could have even been the leader of the LWO, man.
Yeah.
I could have seen Art Barr doing that.
Or co-leader, because him and Eddie running the LWO would have been fire.
And I think what would have happened from there, he would have went on to the trajectory of like so many of his colleagues, like Eddie, like Benoit and stuff, goes eventually to the WWF, and then in the mid 2000s or whatever, finally gets like pushed as like a top tier talent. I think Art Barr probably would have been the first guy out of that group, because the difference is what Art Barr had over these guys was just that insanely talented gift of connecting with the crowd.
Yeah. My thing is, and what I love to think about is if he did not, because of the charges, make it to the big leagues. If we would have saw the Art Barr in that height period of the 2000s on the independent scene.
Ooh, Ring of Honor Art Barr?
Yeah, like Ring of Honor, a ZZW, or like an IWA Mid-South.
Could have easily went down that trajectory as well. You're absolutely right, dude.
All-Pro.
Especially if those demons unfortunately still haunted him.
Yeah.
Could have blown opportunities. I mean, who knows? That's the thing. It's such a massive what if, but I think
he's one of the biggest what ifs in professional wrestling.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think of like when I think of what ifs in wrestling, there's like three guys that comes to mind. I think Magnum TA, I think Gino Hernandez, and I think Art Barr. Those are like the first three I automatically go to.
Mine are him, the Von Erich family as a whole. Especially since I watched that video.
Yeah, because David would have been world champion. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
If those demons had not hit, and actually Massaro.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. What do you? That's an interesting one. What do you think her trajectory would have been?
I think she would have been a top diva and top women's champion. I think we could have got a few WrestleManias out of her, a few women's championship belts. I mean, we got a couple, but I think she could have been top tier.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing about these what ifs. You just never know, but it's great to speculate and talk about them. But as we kind of wrap it up here on our discussion on Art Barr, what do you think ultimately, at the end of the day, is going to be Art Barr's legacy?
A phenomenal in-ring talent who he gave the wrestling business his all. He put everything out on the wrestling business. It was a passion of his, and it ran in the blood. It ran in the blood. I mean, it was just, and he was an innovator. We're talking about a guy who, at the time in the late '80s, was small for his age. You didn't see that much. Unless you were in Mexico. So he was not a high flyer, but he was someone who had quick agility. He was innovated moves. I mean, he created one of the most used finishers in wrestling right now. How
Oh,
many
yeah.
people have the frog splash as a finishing move?
It's right up there with the DDT or a super kick, man.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, it's God, so much stuff that Art Barr did. Like I say, I've said it before on this episode, and I will continue. I will stand on this mountain. It just amazes me the stuff that he accomplished in less than 10 years.
Yeah.
Less than 10 years. It's nuts. Like to have these multiple characters that were completely different, but each were unique, each were over. It's just one of those types of things. But I think at the end of the day, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. A guy who was just so innovative, so ahead of his time. And you know what, too? The thing is, you mentioned his family. That is a hard position to be in.
Yes.
To be in a wrestling family, because there's so many high expectations and shoes to fill. And the crazy thing is like you said, dude, like he didn't even really think about getting into wrestling till his dad told him to do it. So I don't think it was truly like a desire of his or that he wanted to do growing up or an aspiration. He just ended up into it. It's almost kind of like Randy Orton. In a sense.
And it's weird to say because it happened with Randy and The Rock, but it's so rare that the third generation is bigger than the second and first generation.
Yeah.
Like you see a lot of those sons or like younger brothers that just they fail and they don't get to the heights. You see it with you've seen it with The Rock, Randy, and Eddie.
Yeah. It's few and far between.
Yeah.
And just like I say, for him to reinvent himself, to go through like the stuff that it just fascinates me. It's crazy to me that they haven't done a Dark Side of the Ring on him yet. Which
every time that channel posts on their Facebook, who do you want a Dark Side of the Ring on? I always put Art Barr.
Yeah.
I mean, the story block me for this.
The story writes itself. I mean, it's so insane, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, Art Barr, and also too, by the way, should mention was inducted into the Lucha Libre Hall of Fame.
The AAA Hall of Fame.
There's a AAA Hall of Fame in like what 2000 something or other.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, nonetheless, I mean that is the life and career. What is it? 2016.
Yeah.
Okay. So there you have it, folks. That is the life and time of the late great Art Barr. But I can't. I know I'm sounding like a broken record here, but once again, I can't stress it enough. Look him up on YouTube. Watch some of his matches, and you'll see exactly what we're talking about on this episode here of World Championship Wreckage. Now, that being said, time to get to some business here, Michael. Let's talk about the next episode here of World Championship Wreckage. So I was talking to Dad Hat. He kind of filled me in as it's now his turn to choose the topic. And I got to tell you, this is going to be an interesting episode we're doing next year on World Championship Wreckage, because we are going to be looking and comparing and contrasting arguably two of the biggest factions in all pro wrestling, different time frames. Mike, you know where I'm going with this.
Oh yeah,
so
the two faction that gets compared
the most, and we're going to do it here on the next episode of World Championship Wreckage.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
As we are going to be comparing the New World Order and the Bullet Club. That's right. We're going to break it down, talk about it. It's going to be an awesome episode. I cannot wait to hear what Dad Hat has to say. Can't wait to hear what Will has to say on that. So be on the lookout for that episode. But as always, when we're running down here and into the episode, you know we got to get in a Plug-a-Palooza. Michael, my friend, tell us where we can find you, brother.
MJ Duplessis 1992 on the TikTok and on the Twitter.
There you go. And of course, you can find him on this channel as well.
Whenever they have me on to do a show, I'm here.
Here, there, and everywhere. Of course, beloved member of the Queen's Court.
Usually on Cole TV, because, you know.
And yes, you can find Mike.
Honestly, just a third member of Cole TV at this point.
Pretty much, man. You're all over the place, dude. We might have to change your nickname from like the Wrestling Encyclopedia to just Mr. Wrestling Media or something. I don't know, like, because you're all over the place. Social media, you're on it, dude. So, well, for my good friend Dad Hat, of course, you can always find him here on World Championship Wreckage, and don't forget to check out the Wrestle Talk Wolfpack every Wednesday night over on Twitch, and of course, our other brother, the great Will Gray, who is one of the busiest men I know. You can always check out his incredible podcast, Botch Shots and Chair Shots. Botch Spots and Chair. Ugh. Say that 3 times fast. How you do it, Will?
I don't.
How you do it?
That channel got a lot of. That's a long words.
It is
a lot of words.
I can't, but nonetheless, you got to check our boy Will out. And yes, you can also find me over on Cole TV. And we got another exciting week of shows coming up to you here this week on Cole TV. Of course, we're going to have a special live episode of Pro Wrestling 60 this upcoming Monday. We're going to be looking back at everything that happened in the world of professional wrestling this past week, which, yeah, nothing really happened. I don't think a whole lot, you know, especially there on Tuesday night on NXT. That was kind of a boring show, wasn't it?
Just a slight bit.
Just a slight bit, right? Yeah. So we're going to have plenty to talk about on PW60. But also this week on Cole TV, you will be able to catch a brand new episode of our hit show, I'm Your Huckleberry. This is going to be an exciting one, too, because this is from when I was in Philadelphia for WrestleMania week. It's a really awesome place we went to called the Reading Terminal Market. So, and there's like literally over 75 different restaurants in this market, man. So, yeah.
Oh, I love places like that.
Oh, you're going to love it, bro. You're going to want to tune in this week on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, we're going to have our special Impact Wrestling vlog where Mr. B-Roll and I got to check out Impact Wrestling's tapings from Newport, Kentucky, of course, from TNA. And then also next Thursday, we're coming back live and in color. Learning the Ropes will be back. And it's a pretty awesome topic, because we are going to be talking about the last year of ECW. That's right. We're going to go break down the very last year of Extreme Championship Wrestling. And no, we're not talking ECW, damn it. No. We are talking ECW in 2000.
You don't want to talk about Test and Mike Knox?
I'm not a testicle, bro. So, yeah, we're not talking Test. So, you can keep that. So, nonetheless, well, I want to thank you, Michael, so much for coming on this episode here and tag teaming it with me. Couldn't think of a better person to talk about the late great Art Barr, my friend.
Honor. It was awesome.
Well, thank you, good sir. And as always, as we always end each World Championship Wreckage episode, let's go to the American Dream himself, one Dusty Rhodes. Cream pie, Dad Hat. Edit that out. Love you. I had to give us a full plug. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of World Championship Wreckage. Thank you so much. And as always, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Until next time, we'll see you on another episode of Wreckage. Peace.